Good morning to you, and welcome back to today's JRPG Weekly Update. I am SuperDerek, and guys, I hope you brought your seatbelts, because this ride is about to get pretty wild. This week has been amazing. It's been incredible, really. Week before last week wasn't really all that much to talk about, but then on Monday we got this amazing bombshell, and I just had to make a video about it then, and that isn't even this week's top headline. Let's just dive into this very, very slowly. So, where to begin? Yoshitaka Murayama, Junko Kawano, and Osamu Komuta are all collaborating on a new game together, and it's coming to all platforms. You might not know exactly who those are, but the names might sound familiar, and if you're wondering where you heard of them before, most likely it's because each of them was involved in the development of a few Suikoden titles. Junko Kawano kind of took over when Yoshitaka Murayama left Konami during the development of Suikoden 3, and she was responsible for, Suikoden 4, Tactics, and 5, and Osamu also assisted with those. And aside from these writers and developers and directors, we also have some composers who are really, ear-catching. You might know of Motoi Sakuraba from the Tales series, might have heard of Michiko Naruke from the Wild Arms series. You might have heard of Yasunori Mitsuda from the Chrono series, from Xenogears, the legend himself. What are they working on? What is this? Eiyuden Chronicles, 100 Heroes. What does that sound like to you? Because this is a spiritual successor to the Suikoden series. They've been leading up to this announcement for some time. So if you've been following Yoshitaka Murayama or his studio, Blue Moon Studios, for a while, you might have seen that he was leading into something this week, and they finally announced it, and they showed off a teaser trailer featuring some gameplay. Well, what might be gameplay? It's hard to tell if it's just kind of proof of concept or if this is actually, an engine. If you're not familiar with what a spiritual successor is, I guess some people aren't familiar. This is something where you have basically people who are working toward making an unofficial sequel to a game, and usually that's going to take place in different universes, and that's going to be a lot of, they can't make an official one because it's intellectual property rights are tied up with Konami right now, right? So the original people, this is what makes it really interesting. It's all a bunch of original people from the original Suikoden series that are making this together. I'm going to say right now, I don't think Konami really is in any shape to be making a Suikoden game. If you are a Suikoden fan, you should be hyped, because this is the best case scenario. The original developers behind it working on a project unhindered by Konami. The only way this could have been any better is if they actually just bought the Suikoden name from Konami, but they're busy making money off Suikoden pachinko machines, okay? They're not going to give up that cash cow. According to the press release, this is going to involve growing your own fortress town as you increase the number of your teammates with different skill sets and 100 recruitable characters, kind of like the 108 recruitable characters from Suikoden. And then the trailer itself is amazing. I mean, they put out this little short teaser. It's very short, but it shows off some conceptual combat that just is mind-blowing. We've seen screenshots that look mind-blowing. They look like Octopath Traveler meets Suikoden, which is exactly, again, like the best case scenario I could have hoped for. This is going to be awesome. Now, there is a little bit of bad news. I don't want to get into the business of deciding which crowdfunding projects are newsworthy and which ones aren't, but I think it's pretty clear-cut in this case that Yoshitaka Murayama and Junko Kawano and Osamu, all of them being in this same project, coming together to make a spiritual successor to one of the greatest classic RPG series of all time, which I've reviewed most of over, if you check out in the corner here. This is definitely newsworthy. So the Kickstarter is starting today around noon. And I will go ahead and put up a link to that Kickstarter project because, honestly, it's been a really bad year for a lot of us so far. And this, in a way, feels kind of like like a RPG Woodstock, and I really wanted to succeed. And if you'll check it out, I know I'll be backing it, and I hope you guys will too. Moving along, we got some new games and ports to talk about, and in case you've been living under a rock, when I put out my last JRPG Weekly Update news video, the extra edition, well, we got some amazing news from Atlus on Monday. They announced that Shin Megami Tensei 5, well, first of all, they announced that it's still alive, which is great because it seemed like it was stuck in development hell for a little while. And we got a brand new trailer and a release or a launch window that's going to take place sometime within 2021. And so far it's exclusive to Nintendo Switch from the sounds of things. The trailer looks pretty great. Didn't really show off any gameplay, just kind of a cinematic trailer. Not so bad. But then that wasn't really even for me the big news. I mean, that would have been enough for sure. But Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne was announced to be getting an HD remaster, and that blew my freaking mind. And it's crazy that blows my mind, and it's still not even the top headline for this week. But anyways, they showed off a bit of this, and it looks great. Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, by the way, is Shin Megami Tensei 3. It was the first mainline SMT game that we got here in the West, and it still looks great today. And this HD port, this HD remaster makes it look just even better. I've never played it. I've always wanted to, and I will, now that I have this excuse of the HD remaster coming up. The game just looks absolutely phenomenal, and I cannot wait to get my butt handed to me in SMT. By the way, Persona fans, this is probably going to be much harder than what we're used to. Just throwing that out there. And I can't wait to get stomped. So SMT 5, Switch exclusive. SMT 3 Nocturne HD Remaster is apparently also going to be coming to Switch and PlayStation 4. Yes, the more options, the better. And that's going to be coming in 2021 as well. Though the launch window has been shrink for this one, it's spring of 2021. And then, as if wonders never cease, Dragon Quest XI S. The definitive edition of Dragon Quest XI, which was exclusively released on the Nintendo Switch, is finally coming to all platforms. And it's coming to PlayStation 4, Steam, Xbox One, and it adds storylines that I really wish were expanded upon before. It's got that 2D mode, an orchestral soundtrack, and it's only going to cost $40 when it comes out. However, that's about the end of the good news because, well, there's not going to be a free upgrade or even a paid upgrade for fans of or owners of the original, unfortunately. And I highly doubt that save files will be transferable between the two. Also, to top things off, this isn't an expansion for the Switch version that's being ported over. This is a port of the Switch release to other consoles. This is, so in a sense, it'll be a port of an enhanced port. Yeah, personally, I'm not really going to let myself get too excited for this for a few reasons. And if this bothers you, obviously, this is something that you're going to want to, hold off until you start seeing gameplay and hearing news from reviewers and stuff who do dive into this, because this port of a port may result in reduced fidelity. And, if I was okay with that, I would have bought the Switch version already. I mean, honestly, I probably still will get it eventually once it comes down in price, but that's neither here nor there. Just wait until you see reviews. And it is of note that Square Enix does say on their website that the frame rate and resolution will still be at least as good as they were on the original PlayStation 4 release. So there's that, but take that with a grain of salt. You can't really take them at their word necessarily on that. Just wait and see if it's something that is going to be of interest to you. Dragon Quest XI S, though, for the record, its inclusions, its expansion, its enhancements essentially address exactly the things that I mentioned in my review of the original. Link above if you want to see that. I guess that's over here somewhere. Yeah, and it looks like it's likely going to perfect the almost perfect release of the game. You know, barring potential graphics issues that might arise. Personally speaking, that is a 130 hour plus hour investment that I just can't afford to make right now. Following that, we also got an announcement about an open world action RPG called Earthlock 2, which was announced. That's going to be coming to all next gen and current gen Sony and Microsoft consoles, as well as PC, so basically everything but Switch, and it's expected to relaunch sometime within 2022. Also, The Outer Worlds is getting some DLC for its various platforms, which is going to be about $15, and it's, coming to all of them. That's pretty awesome, except in the same breath, Obsidian also announced another game called Avowed, and it is coming to Xbox Series X and to Windows 10. And there was apparently going to be a listing for Xbox One, but that has since apparently been taken down, so probably not coming to Xbox One X, Xbox One, whatever it's called. It's not coming to Xbox One. And that's okay. Obsidian has already shown us that they are better at making Fallout than Bethesda, and with the trailer of Avowed, it looks like they're about to show us whether or not they can make a better Elder Scrolls game. And I, for one, am putting my money on yes, they can. We'll see, because Bethesda really hasn't been performing up to expectations lately, and Obsidian is just killing it. So let's see what happens here. Speaking of that, no idea when it comes out. Also, at the Microsoft Xbox whatever conference I didn't watch, they showed off that a new cinematic trailer for a game called Fable. And it looks like this new Fable game is going to be a next installment in the Fable series. Usually they're all kind of independent from one another, and it doesn't look like there's any real involvement from Peter Molyneux in this as far as I can tell, and that surprisingly doesn't really bother me very much, not surprisingly. Looks like it's being developed by Playground Games, which I'm not super familiar with who they are or their body of work, but it looks really good so far based on the cinematic trailer. Hopefully soon we'll see some gameplay. And now for some release date updates. Last week I did talk about how the existence of the Atelier series, Ryza 2 rather, was actually leaked by the Australian rating board by accident. And well, immediately following my release of that little bit of news, they did actually go ahead and release a trailer and an announcement that it's going to be getting a worldwide release via PC and Steam, Switch, PS4, worldwide this winter. And what a crazy week it has been for this to be this buried this far deep into the JRPG Weekly Update when Atelier Ryza gets a sequel announced, and it's already like nearly 10 minutes into the episode. So that is nuts. Clearly Atelier Ryza must have done a really great job for Gus, because they definitely wanted to jump on this and capitalize on those thigh highs, if you know what I mean. Also, speaking of Xbox a little bit ago, Phantasy Star Online 2, New Genesis was announced, and New Genesis sounds like it's going to be kind of like Phantasy Star Online 2, except completely overhauled for the Western release. Apparently, yeah, it's just a full-on overhaul, new graphics engines, new gameplay systems, they said, and it's coming to all consoles in 2021, and also PC. So it's crazy to me. It's awesome, but it's just crazy that we're finally getting PSO2. I wonder how fans of PSO2 will feel about this overhaul, because, I guess a lot of fans of PSO2 haven't really been waiting for the localization of Phantasy Star Online 2, have they? They've been playing the fan translated version of the game, and well, now I guess there's something new for them to get when it comes out. So I guess maybe it's bittersweet. I don't know. You guys get to experience the game from two sides of the same coin. That's pretty interesting. Also, from Xseed, we got an update on Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. It's going to be coming out on PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and PC in the United States on the 10th of November. And then Europe is going to be getting it on the 20th of November. Now, this is a side-scrolling action RPG farm sim that looks gorgeous, and apparently we'll still be getting the physical releases that I mentioned before. It'll be in mid-November, so keep your eyes out for that. In other news, Yakuza Like a Dragon. This is that turn-based RPG Yakuza title that I've been drooling over for a short while. They announced that this game is actually going to be getting a full-on English dub when it comes out in the West, which is pretty cool. In addition to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Series X versions that they've announced, they also did go ahead and announce that it will be coming to PlayStation 5 as well. Personally speaking, I think I'd prefer to play all the Yakuza games in Japanese since it takes place in modern-day Japan in our world, you know? And I feel like that would be more immersive to the overall experience, but it is really nice to see that there will be options available for people who have different preferences. So it's good news all around. Final Fantasy VII Remake, by the way, the second chapter of that is now fully in development, and I suspect that that's going to be a substantially shorter development time from the as opposed to the original Final Fantasy VII Remake entry. That took a few years to put together. Because they've already done all the groundwork, I suspect that this is going to be finished within the next probably a year or two, really. I wouldn't be surprised if 7-2 is just around the corner. And speaking of Final Fantasy VII Remake, I did actually just on Friday release my own review of the game. It's a little late, but I stand by it 100%. Overall, I think Final Fantasy VII was a good game, but maybe not necessarily a great game. It's a spoiler-free review if you haven't seen it yet, so make sure you go check it out. And I'll link to that up there, wherever it is over in this area, you know. And I reviewed it from the perspective of a non-fan of Final Fantasy VII Original, because that's, you know, the only perspective I've got. And then for this week's JRPG Weekly Forecast, dudes, we've got so many games coming out this week. We've got Other Side by the Lightbulb Crew development team. That's a horror-themed strategy turn-based RPG tactics game. It's going to be coming to PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Switch, no, not Switch, PC, and Xbox One, and we'll be seeing that on the 28th. And then that same day, we'll be seeing Mega Dimension Neptunia V2 by Compile Heart coming out. It's coming to Nintendo Switch on July 28th. It is already on PlayStation 4 and PC. Neo 2, the ninja-themed action RPG from Team Ninja, is coming to PlayStation 4 on July 30th. Also on the 30th, we'll be seeing Yakuza Kiwami 2 making its way to Xbox One. It's already on PS4 and PC. And on July 30th, we'll be seeing the Merchant of the Skies RPG by Cold Wild Games. That's coming to Nintendo Switch, PC, and Xbox One. And then also on the 30th, Hoshi o Miruhito, Japanese-style sci-fi RPG by City Connection, is coming out on the Nintendo Switch on July 30th. Fairy Tail, the RPG based on the manga and anime of the same name, developed by Gust, is coming to the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch and PC on July 31st. Also, Cat Quest Possum Pack, P-A-W, some like awesome, but with a paw. It's a Cat Quest compilation that's coming out. It's released by the Gentle Bros, coming to PlayStation 4, PC, Nintendo Switch, also on the 31st. And then Heroes of Hammerwatch Ultimate Edition. It's an action RPG by Crackshell. It's coming to Nintendo Switch and Xbox One on the 31st as well. And now it's time for this week's question of the week. And my question for you guys is this. Eiyuden Chronicles is basically my dream scenario for a spiritual successor to the Suikoden series. What would your dream team be to put together for any sort of spiritual successor for any dormant series, specifically RPGs and JRPGs? But who would your crack team be for a job like that? And what series would you like to see a spiritual successor for? Right now, it feels like we've already seen a lot of spiritual successors coming out that were really interesting, like Oddity, which is a spiritual successor to Earthbound and Mother 3. The game just looks astounding. So I wouldn't really want to change anything about that. Like, I don't even think it would have benefited really much from Itoi's involvement. Or, there's also maybe Terranigma would benefit really well, but part of me still hopes that we could see an official sequel to that come from Shade at some point. Knock on wood, please. Please, Shade, if you're listening. Terranigma 2, please. Okay, so here's my spiritual successor wish list. Artist, Tatsuya Yoshikawa. Writer, Makoto Ikehara. And composer, Yoshino Aoki. Those are my 3 people that I want involved in the production of a spiritual successor to Breath of Fire 3 and 4. These 3 were involved in each of the games and were just absolutely amazing. Well, actually, I think that the composer Yoshino Aoki, I'm pretty sure they were only involved in production of Breath of Fire 3, which I am still totally fine with. Breath of Fire 3's soundtrack is so good and jazzy, and it's just chef's kiss, right? And of course, I feel like the Breath of Fire series after 3 and 4 went downhill, with Breath of Fire 5, and then Breath of Fire 6 never existed. So a sequel not made by Capcom, I think, would be our best bet, which is why I would like to see a spiritual successor involving these 3 OG developers. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But what do you think? Who would be your crack team? Or, you can just say the original team behind Chrono Trigger making Chrono Break or something like that. Shorthand is fine. Anyways, thanks for hanging out, guys. I will see you next time. Hopefully there won't be any crazy news I have to report on immediately, but if there is, I can't wait to be excited for it. I am SuperDerek, and this has all been news to me. Have a great week, everybody.